The timing of the cycle is the point. We are at the end, not the beginning. So, guys, let's take a look at crypto, at what's going on right now, how everything is looking, and then completely ignore that because it's November sell. Right? Now, let's talk about the 4-year crypto cycle and let's see if it actually exists. Because I think that a lot of people are now in the camp that it will be over soon. There's still a lot of people that say that it won't, but this is the debate right now. And how come? Well, simply because it is the end of the post-halving year. And if we take a look at Bitcoin cycles so far, we had the top end of 2013, end of 2021, and 2017, and end of 2021. So 3 times, that's all the data we have, of course, right? But it's just 3 times. So let's try to take a look at what makes this cycle a cycle. Because I honestly think that people who think that it works purely based on seasonality are gonna get wrecked, really wrecked. And I'm gonna show you in this video why, and I hope it gives you some insights on what drives crypto. Because this is where I think, I said it before, the max pain is gonna be. People think that they figured it out. It's the end of 2025, so I'm gonna sell together with half of the entire crypto market and I'm gonna walk away, without any problems. Ha, stupid jokes on you. I think that's not gonna work out. So this might be a useful one. Now, I know everybody has a hangover today, was staying up late to watch, like, what is the 50 weekly moving average gonna do? Because that's gonna determine our entire future. This line right here. Well, we close above it, but like I said in yesterday's video, the 50 weekly moving average is a fully inaccurate moving average to measure if we are in a bull or a bear market, in my opinion. If you haven't seen it, watch that video. But I would not pay too much attention to this on its own, at least. Now, about the cycle, again, there are a lot of people saying that it is over or will be over soon or Q4. Why? Seasonality. Cool. Seasonality, that's all that matters. And why is that? Well, because it was like right for 3 times in a row. All right? Okay, let's take a look. What is the crypto cycle? The crypto cycle, well, usually cycles, whether in crypto or TradFi, are measured bottom to bottom. Right? And crypto has something unique to it as well. And these are the halvings. Right? So there are 2 things that we can take a look to identify, like, okay, what is the cycle? Right now, if we take it from bottom to bottom, we had the first bottom in November 2011, with the second bottom in August 2015. So fair enough, that's 4 years. Then we had the next bottom in December 2018. That was 3 years. And then we had it in November 2022, which was 4 years again. So if we look from bottom to bottom, again, we have seen a period where it was 3 years. Like, okay, so obviously crypto doesn't really care about a 4-year cycle when it comes to bottom to bottom. Then let's try to take a look at what the halving is saying. And I showed this a couple times before, but even the only thing that makes a crypto cycle a unique crypto cycle is the halving. But as you can see, we had the halving in November 2012, and then we had the halving in July 2016, which is 3.5 years later and not 4 years as well. So bottom to bottom, it's not 4 years. Cycle to or halving to halving, also not 4 years, right? However, we can take a look at something else, right? It doesn't have to be exactly 4 years. I get that, right? It's 48 months, could be 50 months, could be 46 months, whatever. Well, in that case, if we look bottom to bottom, 1,372 days. Bottom to bottom, 1,211 days. And here, bottom to bottom, 1,442 days. So if we take the average, that would be 1,342 days. Actually, it's 44, but I have it on the weekly. So if we take the average of how long it took for the bottom to be in, then we can say, like, okay, next bottom will be August 2026. Right? So it's not November, it's not December, right? So we could say, like, well, the top was in from October, but now the bear market is going to be shorter, right? It could be. In that case, this time is different, I guess. Right? So it doesn't really make that much sense, actually, if you ask me. Then let's try to take a look at, well, what else makes sense to take a look at? And I said this before, and I am pretty surprised that not a lot of people are still looking at this. Because again, we see that the halvings, they don't make sense. And even in this run-up right here, in when Bitcoin came out, right, in 2009, you would say like, well, then the cycle is over in 2013. And hey, in 2013, it topped, definitely, right? So you could say like, well, even from the beginning, it is fully accurate because we went into a bear market of 86% was pretty obvious bear market, right? However, what is this then, right? Here, we went down as well. You could say like, well, that's a mid-cycle crash. This was like 93%. This was bigger than every bear market we have ever seen. So this was just a bear market, right? So we can already see that the crypto cycle itself, it's broken, right? We had a bear market in the middle of a bull market. The halvings are not every 4 years. The bottom to the bottom, it's not every 4 years. The only thing that so far every 4 years is the top. And therefore people are kind of like cautious. Some are bearish, some are freaking out. Some, I don't know, about that, well, everything is falling apart, but the top will be the same. Well, I have good news, because that might not have to be the case, actually. Let's take a look at this. Again, I showed this before. This is the business cycle, United States manufacturing ISM new orders. Now, I am... I do believe in cycles. It's not that I don't believe in cycles, because that proved to work in the stock market as well. But in the stock market, it's also not 4 years. You also have 5-year cycles. I am, however, not really a fan of astrology. I don't believe in the stars align like this, so today I can forget that my wife is gonna do nasty shit. Like, that's not gonna happen because that star is supposed to, like, no. And I think that for crypto, it's the same thing. And therefore, I don't believe in astrology. And I really believe more in liquidity, especially as Bitcoin is now literally a stock, basically. Like the ETFs are in the NASDAQ, like Bitcoin moves with the liquidity cycle. It moves with the business cycle. That speaks for itself, right? So if we look at the business cycle, you see where it topped out last 3 times. Well, you already know what you're going to see right here, right? But if you overlay Bitcoin, you can see that that's exactly where Bitcoin topped out. So now comes the fun part, right? Because you could either say like, well, this is true, and maybe there's more to it, right? And in that case, you could be bullish because, hey, the ISM is not sitting at the top right now. And you could say like, whoa, how do you know it never goes back? Well, this is like 75 years of oscillating history. I dare to bet that this will go up again. So either that's the case, or you say, nah, this is not true. This is a coincidence. But again, this is 3 times just like the Bitcoin cycle itself. So why would we believe in that and not in this? This accuracy is the same and with more history. So if we look at the business cycle, then we can make it make sense, right? Crypto follows the business cycle. It follows liquidity more than it does like looking at what date it is. And the only time where Bitcoin didn't really follow the 4-year cycle at first, because it already went down in 2011. Well, wouldn't you know, because the ISM went down in 2011, right? So the crypto 4-year cycle shows like, hey, the 3 times that Bitcoin did top out at the end of the post-halving year was because the ISM topped out right there. But the time that it topped out earlier, it was because the ISM topped out earlier. Like, how can we at least not consider this, right? So therefore, I do feel like it is maybe a little too easy to just look like, well, you know, despite where the ISM is sitting, despite what the liquidity is doing, nah, Bitcoin has independently, just coincidentally, exactly copied the ISM, all its existence, and now it is going to go down. Right? And to a certain degree, I feel like it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if people say like, well, it's gonna go down, then they are gonna sell, and if they're gonna sell, they drive the price down, but not as we did in a bear market, because there's not much retail in Bitcoin, right? The people who are in Bitcoin, the retail that's in Bitcoin, is probably the people that have been here for longer, right? The newer people, yeah, they're not really buying Bitcoin. If anything, they want to gamble on altcoins, but if anything, they're not even here yet, right? So the people that have been here for a while are not that likely to panic sell. Then who else could like change this and drive it into a bear market? Well, the whales, right? The institutions, the ETFs, like guys like Michael Saylor. But honestly, guys, do you really think that we are smarter than Michael Saylor? Right? No. These people, they know what they do. Right? And they know that it's more than just even if they would care, right? Michael Saylor will probably buy the entire way down in the bear market and buy it up in the bull market again. He doesn't care, right? But these people, they know more than we do, right? And they are not gonna invest in Bitcoin purely with the idea that it somewhat magically tops every 4 years. They know that crypto is attached to more than that, right? So these people are probably not concerned, and that's the reason why you don't see them sell as well, because there is, in my opinion, no reason to sell other than the thing that we try to convince ourselves of, right? And that's like, well, it's Q4, so it's over. Well, again, only look at this chart then, right? Then only look at this chart. Q4, it was over. Right? Q4, it was over. Q4, it was over. And now we're here and you're going to say, well, yeah, it's over, right? Why? Because it's Q4 or because it topped out? I would say it topped out. And why did it top out there? That's because of the whole business cycle. But again, you can see that this is not necessarily every 4 years, right? We topped out in 2013, but we also topped out in 2011. And again, that's where Bitcoin had its first top, which wasn't 4 years. Like, that cannot be a coincidence anymore. And you can go back further in time. For example, here it topped out in 2009. But the time before that, it was 2004. That was 5 years. And now, what I think, the only thing that we should look at is this, right? Is the ISM. Because there is literally nothing else that correlated more perfectly and better to crypto than the ISM did. And it also makes sense. Right? More sense than that star. Like, no, I don't know. And look, maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe it could be that it's not the case. But I always try to think about the handicapped horse race, right? This is the strong, fast horse. This is the horse that you look at on the court and be like, yeah, that motherfucker's gonna win, right? And you could look at only Bitcoin and be like, well, I don't know why, but they are top. Yeah, that retard handicap horse, it could win. Definitely. That anything is possible. But are you going to bet on it? That's the question. So, but honestly, let's say, good coffee. Let's say that we are going to top out, or that we did top out. Why would you sell anyway? Because the thing is, though, that here, if you look at this, Bitcoin went up like 22x. Here, Bitcoin went up with, I don't know, 3 million x. Like crazy. So if there's so much buying and there are so many people in profit because there's euphoria and everybody was coming in, of course these people take profit, right? They have it, so they take it. But Bitcoin didn't move up that much in the first place this time. So why would it fall that hard? I know I said it in a couple videos ago. My worst case scenario is that nothing in the world makes sense. We top out around this period, and then we get into a bear market and bottom at 70K, right? 70K. Gave a couple reasons, like somewhere last week, why I think that would be then the bottom. And then you have to ask yourself, right? Like, all right, 70K, it's down 30%. Jesus, we have seen like bi-weekly corrections that are bigger than that. Like, if you cannot say that out, and you might be like, well, yeah, if Bitcoin goes down 30%, altcoins are gonna get wrecked. Yeah, in the Bitcoin dominance uptrend, they do, definitely. And that's most of the time, it is a Bitcoin dominance uptrend. And if you look at the time spent going up against the time going down, yeah. Okay, so here as well, spend a lot of time up. It's not different than the last time, basically. And at a certain point, you get such a move down really fast. You feel like, yeah, man, Bitcoin can even go into a bear market. But if the Bitcoin dominance also goes down, while Bitcoin goes into a mild bear market, relatively, then altcoins will go up a lot. And because we already see that this dip by the Bitcoin dominance, Ethereum, which was back then sitting at a $180 billion market cap, did a 3.5x, right? Oh yeah, we all know that there's a lot more liquidity in Ethereum than in alts, in other alts, right? So if this little money that flew from Bitcoin to ETH could make ETH do a 3.5x, then you really want to be on the sideline when we get the rest of the move and that flows into other altcoins. Right? And I know what we think, how you think, how a lot of people think, at least. Like, no, but it's not gonna happen. Okay, it's fine. If you think that, right, you will be the first to be right, right? But maybe you will. At least consider, what if you're not? Have you waited 4 years to fumble it and then watch it happen without you? Are you really, if you are okay accepting that, then fine, then it's okay, right? Then it doesn't matter. But if you're not, yeah, then you get the typical bull market recklessness where people say it's not gonna happen, and then the obvious happens, and people are like, fuck, and they FOMO in at the top, right? That's also not what you want. So what I think, if you would ask me, like, okay, when is it gonna top out? I don't know. But looking at only the 4-year cycle, I think that's yeah, I don't see why we should do that. Actually, it doesn't make sense at this point. So you could say like, oh, so you're saying that this time is different? No, I'm saying that this time is the same. I'm saying that this time we are still following the business cycle, right? But yeah, as long as Bitcoin existed, the business cycle topped out every 4 years, right? Obviously, that's not always the case. Obviously, we are not there yet now. So, of course, for crypto, it would be the first time to witness a longer cycle. But if you look at the bigger picture, then it's not different. Right? This happens all the time. So if you ask me, like, okay, when do you think we're gonna top out? I don't know. Let me don't act like I know. What I do know is I looked at where we are right now, and over the last 25 years, how long did it take to get from this level to the top? And there was an average of 8 months, right? So therefore, I would say, I don't know, Q3 2026, maybe, right? To top out, could happen. I don't know. It could also be that we do way less or more than average, right? And it could very well be that you know, eventually people love to say about crypto, like, I was right, you were wrong. It could be that we are all wrong, right? Because, for example, if somebody now says, we're going to go into a bear market, and I'm saying, no, we don't. We could both be wrong, right? Because so far for crypto, it is very obvious what a bear market is and what a bull market is, right? Bear market, bull market, bear market, bull market, bear market, bull market. What if? What if we do this? I don't know, yeah, for a while, right? Something like that. for over like 2 years. Yeah, like then who was wrong and who was right? And we went into a short bear market, bull market, bear bull. No, these are just movements up and down. So overall, I think we should try to let go of the idea that it will always move like this. Top and then bear for 1 year and then bull for 3 years, bear for 1 year, and then there we have a flash crash and the yada yada. Like, I think that most people only look at what happened so far in crypto and see like that's the only way crypto can move. Crypto is new. Bitcoin is new, right? It hasn't followed the liquidity cycle. It hasn't followed the business cycle yet when that was moving 5 years, 3 years, right? Longer, shorter. It didn't do that yet. But as we saw, there's nothing better correlated to Bitcoin than the business cycle, than the ISM is. And in that case, there's hope. There's a lot of hope. The only downside for our beloved altcoin holders is that the devs of your projects don't know this shit. Right? And that's what I want to warn you for, though. Because I run my own project. I'm not going to give up because I think like, well, this was it. Fuck it. I'm out of runway. But there are a lot of people, especially in the lower cap projects, right? The high cap project, they don't care about what happens between now and 2 years. But especially with the low caps, watch out. Because the founders of these projects, they usually don't know much about crypto in the first place. So if we like go into somewhat of a extended cycle, which might be boring, which might be different, might go down first, I don't know. Yeah, these people probably feel like, fuck, it's over, I'm gonna sell. So although the cycle might still go on, a lot of alts probably still die in the meantime, right? The good thing is you don't need these trash coins. You don't need them at this stage. In a risk-on market, take it. And how can you measure if something is risk-on? Very simple. Look at the Russell divided by the S&P. This is shitcoins versus Bitcoin, but then stock version, right? Down only. So people that say like, well, altcoins are not running, there are too many. Bullshit. Look at the map. It's doing the same thing. It's exactly the same, right? But like I said, you don't need those because the altcoin market is now so extremely low against Bitcoin, right? We are sitting here. Right? We're holding very decently since like for 1.5 years so far. Like it's not going like it's going up and down in the meantime, but we're still holding it. Similar, right? But we are still very low. And we have seen like a couple days ago, this thing went up with like, I don't know, even like 3%. And some coins went up with 50% on the dollar pair. Why? As I said before, Bitcoin is really high. We need to outperform Bitcoin with a tiny bit. And the liquidity that flows into alts is already so much for these alts to make them go up really hard. This thing isn't even like, look at this. Where do you see that extreme pump where some coins did like crazy numbers a couple days ago, right? Mostly AI coin. They did really well. On this chart, I can barely see it. So therefore, I'm like, man, we don't have to make a new high. We don't have to like make a slightly lower. We can just go back to, I don't know, pathetic this right here. In the future, they won't look back at it and they'll look back at this chart and be like, well, there wasn't even an alt season, basically. Well, dollar-wise, we'll be fucking sick. So I want to leave it there. It's long enough. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, subscribe if you're new. Turn the bell notification on. I think I'm having a stroke or not enough coffee. I'm YOLOing on the second. I'll see you in the next one.